short time ago an adjournment without day at 15 minutes before 4 o'clock. Mr. Hale, I move that the Senate do now adjourn sine die. The motion was agreed to, and the Senate adjourned sine die. At that point, the United States of America was dissolved. So when people talk about the economic problems that they're experiencing today with the private commercial paper or private commercial paper notes belonging to the Jesuit order and to the Pope of Rome via the Federal Reserve, etc., are controlled by the Satanist societies, secret societies, for the enforcement of the unum sanctum operations of the Pope of Rome, under the unum sanctum operations and the Spanish Inquisition against the Moors, and the conquest of the Western Hemisphere, known as under the military code of the conquest by Columbus, etc., which is not so much a man as it is a military operation. For the Jesuit order, which is a military operation and has nothing to do with spiritual development whatsoever, never did. And from these improper constructs came most of your three-letter agencies that now actually rule at the Maghreb and have been causing the wars in the different nation states around the world, particularly in Africa and Asia, as they have already, conquered the Maghreb or the Western Hemisphere. And so that must be put in perspective when you go into these things. And the other thing that I want to bring to your attention, and this is in relationship to many of the so-called because this is a nom de guerre construct, the so-called black community is a branding concept. It has nothing to do with bloodline, pedigree, or African people. It has to do with a branding system constructed to separate or to cause what you call political disassociation, as well as mental psychic attack, disassociation of African peoples from their land here in America, which is Al-Marak, the Maghreb, etc. And to support the reconstructed history that has been put forth by Satanist writers and scholars in order to secure the psychological warfare and psychic attack programs that are necessary to disinherit it and to disenfranchise the true Americans from the land and from what you would call any grounded or solid political activities or hereditament claims, etc., or estate claims. Commonly just simply referred to as to enforce colonial operations. I want to go into the original article of Amendment 13, and in particularly, I'll read through it with its 20 sections, and this comes from the congressional records. And I want you all to take note of Article 12. And this is to put in perspective the actual status of the Aboriginal people here, distinguished from what you've been told in both the reconstructed history books and also that you've been told by people who have been assigned by the conquerors to help miseducate the people, to disconnect them from the land, etc. By promoting what you would call the 14th Amendment civil rights Negro citizenship status, which is a total and absolute misrepresentation and a total fraud. Below, and I also can't say this from the original print. That's from the original print. That's not a retype, that's the original print. The original 20 sections of the 13th Amendment from the pages of the Congressional Records, Article 13. Section 1. All persons shall have the right peaceably to assemble and worship God according to the dictates of their own conscience. Section 2. The use of the public press shall not be obstructed, but criminal publications made in one state against the lawful institutions of another state shall not be allowed. Section 3. The right of the citizens to free and lawful speech in public assemblies shall not be denied. Access of citizens to the ballot box shall not be obstructed either by civil or military power. The military shall always be subordinate to the existing judicial authority over citizens. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall never be suspended in the presence of the judicial authority. Section 4. The militia of a state or of the United States shall not be employed to invade the lawful rights of the people of any of the several states, but the United States shall not be hereby deprived of the right and power to defend and to protect its property and rights within the limits of any of the states. Section 5. Persons held to service or labor for life in any state under the laws thereof may be taken into any territory of the United States south of north latitude 3630, and the right of such service or labor shall not be impaired thereby, and the territorial legislature thereof shall have the exclusive right to make and shall make all needful rules and regulations for the protection of such right, and also for the protection of such persons. But Congress or any territorial legislature shall not have power to impair or abolish such right of service in said territory while in a territorial condition without the consent of all the states south of said latitude which maintain such service. Section 6. Involuntary servitude, except for crime, shall not be permanently established within the district set apart for the seat of government of the United States, but the right of sojourn in such district, which persons held to service or labor for life shall not be denied. Section 7. When any territory of the United States south of north latitude 3630 shall have a population equal to the ratio of representation for one member of Congress, and the people thereof shall have formed a constitution for republican form of government, it shall be admitted as a state into the Union on an equal footing with the other states, and the people may in such constitution either prohibit or sustain the right to involuntary labor or service, and alter or amend the Constitution at their will. Section 8. The present right of representation in Section 2, Article 1 of this Constitution shall not be altered without the consent of all the states maintaining the right to involuntary service or labor south of latitude 3630. But nothing in this Constitution or its amendments shall be construed to deprive any state south of said latitude 3630 of the right of abolishing involuntary servitude at its will. Section 9. The regulation and control of the right to labor or service in any of the states south of latitude 3630 is hereby recognized to be exclusively the right of each state within its own limits, and the Constitution shall not be altered or amended to impair the right of each state without its consent, provided this article shall not be, construed to absolve the United States from rendering assistance to suppress insurrections or domestic violence when called upon by any state as provided in Section 4, Article 4 of this Constitution. Section 10. No state shall pass any law in any way interfering with or obstructing the recovery of fugitives from justice or from labor or service or any law of Congress made under Article 4, Section 2 of this Constitution, and all laws in violation of this section may, on complaint made by any person or state, be declared void by the Supreme Court of the United States. Section 11. As a right of comity between the several states south of latitude 3630, the right of transit with persons held to involuntary labor or service from one state to another shall not be obstructed, but such persons shall not be brought into the states north of south latitude. Section 12. The traffic in slaves with Africa is hereby forever prohibited on pain of death, and the forfeiture of all the rights and the property of all persons engaged therein, and the descendants of Africans shall not be citizens. Section 13. The alleged fugitives from labor or service on request shall have a trial by jury before being returned. Section 14. All alleged fugitives charged with crime committed in violation of the laws of the state shall have the right of trial by jury, and if such person claims to be a citizen of another state, shall have a right to appeal or of a writ of error to the Supreme Court of the United States. Section 15. All acts of any inhabitant of the United States tending to incite persons held to service or labor to insurrection or acts of domestic violence or to abscond are hereby prohibited and declared to be a penal offense, and all courts of the United States shall be open to suppress and punish such offenses as the suit of any citizen of the United States or the suit of any state. Section 16. All conspiracies in any state to interfere with the lawful rights in any other state or against the United States shall be suppressed, and no state of the people thereof shall withdraw from this union without the consent of 3/4 of all the states expressed by an amendment proposed and ratified in the manner provided in Article 5 of the Constitution. Section 17. Whenever any state wherein involuntary servitude is recognized or allowed shall propose to abolish such servitude and shall apply for pecuniary assistance therein, the Congress may, in its discretion, grant such relief not exceeding $100 for each person liberated. But Congress shall not propose such abolishment or relief to any state. Congress may assist free persons of African descent to immigrate and colonize Africa. Section 18. Duties on imports may be imposed for revenue, but shall not be excessive or prohibitory in amount. Section 19. When all of the several states shall have abolished slavery, then and thereafter slavery or involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, shall never be established or tolerated in any of the states or territories of the United States, and they shall be forever free. Section 20. The provisions of this article relating to involuntary labor or servitude shall not be altered without the consent of the states maintaining such servitude. Close out. That is the 20 sections of original Article of Amendment 13, which is not taught in the schools, and it's not by accident, because the scholars, the historians, and the politicians at North America themselves, not only did they dissolve or abrogate their obligations and duties as officers for the Constitution for the United States by adjourning sine die, and of course assassinating Abraham Lincoln, they have been operating ever since de facto and pretending to be a legitimate political platform, and have successfully miseducated the people, misrepresented themselves as a legitimate nation state around the world, when in fact they were private corporations that went bankrupt, etc., and under subversion actually adjourned sine die with the already established plan to assassinate Abraham Lincoln in the process of their adjourning sine die. So in 1861, the United States of America as a political platform was dissolved. Did not remove the obligations of treaties, etc., which supersede the Constitution, from which that Constitution was derived from fatwa, or known as Moorish law or Muslim law, which is no secret to scholars, etc., which Barack H. Obama also exposed when he went to Egypt, knowing that that information has not been taught in the school books at North America. However, I want to share with you also some other facts so that your concepts about the politics that have been misrepresented at North America, and the fake educations that has been given to the true Americans. And you true Americans are you copper complexion people out there, since you're not black, you're copper complexion. And black is not an identity. Keep that in mind. It's a nom de guerre. It's a brand. But I want to share with you some facts, and this is from the Secretary of State this is in the area of 1906, a letter that was written to him because they were also dealing with the status of our people, because many of our people rebutted being branded Negroes, blacks, and coloreds, and going under those brand terms constructed for a caste system operating at North America, particularly with de facto operators pretending to be government, because they were still exercising judicial powers on the land in violation of treaty and constitution, and also still abusing our people with the old term they call "go west, young man," and stealing the people's lands, etc., under their corporate operations. Now, this was a letter. This would be from documents in your congressional records, pardon me, and under the laws of citizenship of the United States and the expatriation, etc. And this would be page 459, and this would be in relationship to chapter 4, and this is temporary provisions. And I want you to see this. This is citizenship of the United States, expatriation, etc. And I want you to notice right under here, United States, and you see right there, Morocco. It's no secret. I want you to see that's direct congressional print right there. Now, Mr. Phillip, charge d'affaires to Mr. Root, Secretary of State, August the 3rd, 1906, American Legation, Tangier, August the 3rd, 1906. Sir, there are strictly speaking, no Moroccan laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The fundamental laws of this non-Christian country are based entirely upon the Islamic code, in no part of which treats of the subject of citizenship. Page 460, citizenship of the United States, expatriation, etc. There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. But as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions, that it is not the desire of the department to call for a report upon such lines. I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. Number one, citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. 2 and 3. Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. It was established by the Convention of Madrid, concluded July 3rd, 1880, as follows. Article 15. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall, after having remained for a length of time to that which shall have not been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire and the obligation to quit Morocco, unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of Morocco, government of Morocco. Now, I present that to you to present this argument to you. Number one, the United States as a viable and legitimate political platform was dissolved in 1861. They've been exercising de facto operations ever since. Number two, the guise of the 14th Amendment so-called Negro citizen operations to deceive the people into being U.S. citizens when it's clear that people of African descent, that's the true Americans, cannot be citizens of the U.S. corporation because it's a private corporation, number one, and they're foreign Europeans occupying America. They're not the people of America, although they have been doing what you call identity theft. So those facts are there. And number two, there is no record, in fact, of any lawful process by which the Moors of America, the true Americans, have ever gone through any official naturalization exercise, act, or institutional process, given a nationality card for the U.S. corporation, etc., at any time in history at North America. Therefore, any claim that any people of African descent are U.S. citizens was a fraud, is a fraud, and shall ever be a fraud. And if it ever took place, etc., which it did not, it would still be a fraud, because by the law, people of African descent cannot be citizens of the United States of America Corporation, because it's not a country. It's an occupational force that has also been dissolved. However, that fact has not been taught to the people, and people have been wasting years of their lives following so-called black and Negro leaders who've been marching them around the place on their own land, trying to be citizens of the U.S. corporation, which is defunct. Although you have criminal operatives, or what you call Satanist secret societies, who have been really under foreign corporate operations, exercising judicial and political jurisdictional civil powers at North America in violation of moral principles, in violation of all ethics, in violation of all law, in violations of constitutions, in violation of international law, in violations of all treaties, and yet they have been given the respect as a legitimate nation when in fact, by their own records, I just showed you that not only are they not legitimate, the whole fake platform of people with copper complexion, the true Americans, can't be U.S. citizens either. And I know because of the compromise of many people among our own who have been for decades promoting U.S. citizenship, they have never produced a nationality card, number one, because it's not a nation. Number two, because even their political platform was dissolved, and this is why they've been continuing the frauds on multiple levels against human rights. And this is, again, why they've been exercising genocidal operations against African people and American people who are still of African descent, the true Americans, for decades, for the last couple of centuries, and still guising themselves as Americans when in fact they are not, and guising themselves and hiding behind religious tags of which they are not. But unfortunately, you still have the false pretext of people of the land, some of them with copper complexion, who have been promoting the frauds that they themselves know is a fraud by claiming the people of the land to be black people and Negro people, etc., when they know that these are nom de guerre created for a caste system having nothing to do with the true Al Moroccans, i.e., which is the copper complexion people of the land, etc. And they've allowed without contest or without rebutting hybrid Europeans claiming to be Americans and have created all this hell on earth against all of the nations of the earth, and are now doing the best that they can to destroy civilized society at the expense of the common people of the land, and in contrary to the divine laws and principles laws of nature's God and nature's law as expressed in the unanimous Declaration of Independence, with recognition of the pre-existing unalienable rights of natural sentient living men and women, under which the constructions of government are based, etc., for no other purpose, only to preserve the pre-existing rights of the people, known also as birthrights and unalienable rights, and that such governments have no rights unto themselves and have no rights to give, no rights to sell. They have only obligations and duties, and that must never be forgotten by the people. And I want to also present to you some of my notes from 1984. This is for the concepts of the people to correct a lot of their concepts. And I will enter, this is common law. And this must be recognized because this is where you have what is called the natural, or what is known as the nature's law and nature's God principle, has this reflection in what you will call the Constitution principles that are relegated in operative government, that sets forth the obligations of beings who take any office, etc. Common law is distinguished from Roman law. I repeat, common law is distinguished from Roman law. Common law is distinguished from the modern civil law and distinguished from the canon law and from other systems of law. The common law is that body of law and justice theory which was originated, developed, and formulated and administered in England. And keep in mind that England is a part of Iberia. And Iberia, and that ancient principle comes from Muslim law. And so you're talking about Queen Dodo, and you're talking about Nefertiti's daughter, etc. You're talking North Africa. So you got to put that in perspective with the reconstructed, or what is known as reconstructed history of Iberia, now known as Europe, history of Europe. So you're talking about the Picts, the Moors, and the Dubs, all of whom are Africans. So see, the Renaissance initiated in Spain and in Italy, and its influence upon Europe during the 14th to the 16th centuries. Common law is distinguished from law created by the enactment of legislatures. The common law comprises the body of those principles and rules of action relating to the government and to the security of persons and property, which derive their authority solely from the usages and customs of immemorial antiquity. Immemorial antiquity.